Hello and welcome to Mr. C History. Today I am in Essex, the far east of the magnificent county of Essex, at a place called Bradwell-on-Sea. Specifically, I'm going to see the church behind me here, the Church of St Peter on the Wall, built in the 7th century. I have come here because I believe that this is the oldest church in England. There are controversies there are a few other contenders, but my belief is that it is here. So we're going to look at the history of this place, why it's here, this remote location, and a little bit about what it looks like, and crucially that idea, is it really the oldest church in England? So come along and join me. Now the thing is, you don't just stumble upon this place, you drive for quite a long way into the deep Dengie Peninsula, then you have to park the car and you have to walk for a bit on this dusty path through the fields and all the wind farms until you think you're going to run out of land, because you can see the sea there, until you eventually see on the horizon a very, very old church. Now let's explain where we are and why build a church here, because nowadays it's empty here. Nobody lives here. It's miles from anything, from any real towns or civilizations. Why on earth is there a church here? Well, actually, for many centuries, this was quite an important place, quite a busy place. In the late Roman times, the late Roman occupation of England, they built forts all along here. The Blackwater estuaries just out there, known as the Saxon shore forts, to try and defend this Roman Empire, which was dwindling by now. Then fast forward to the 650s, and you have a king, King Sigebert of the East Saxons, the king of this area. He says, oh, I quite like the idea of this Christianity stuff. Let's invite some Christians in to convert my people. Now he is in luck, because we are right out on the east of England here, and just outside there is the North Sea, and that was a highway of boats in the 6th century, a highway full of men, of priests, of bishops, of Christians. Now where were they coming from? Well, they were coming from various different abbeys and different churches, but the big one they were coming from was Lindisfarne, way up in the north of Newcastle, Northumberland, but crucially on the east coast, so they could just sail down here. Enter St Cedd, the C-E-D-D that is spelt. He is the man who built this church. He arrived here in 654 AD on an invitation from Lindisfarne down the east coast and said, here I will build my church. That chap, St Cedd, actually, he was quite significant in the Synod of Whitby in 664. I went there to have a look. We did that on my Venerable Bede video. That was the decision to move towards Rome a bit more, when Easter was, etc., and move away from traditional Celtic, pagan, kind of English things. So St Cedd, his influence is huge, not just in this amazing church behind me. Now let's look at the architecture of this building, because it's quite boring. It's quite barn-like, more on that perhaps in a minute, and it's very sort of austere. There's obviously bits that have fallen off, I accept, and they're obviously a bit more of a round. It's kind of a bit more straight. But what's interesting is you can see the odd bit of red brick put in here, something like this here. Whatever the case, that is almost probably certainly from the Roman fort Othona, like I was saying. St Cedd used some of the bricks from that thing. So that's its ancientness already there. And it's very, very plain. There's no, with churches, we're used to seeing towers and we're used to seeing nice windows, etc. None of that. It is very, very plain, a plain place to come and worship. Sadly, it's closed today, but I have been in before because it's quite stark in there, quite plain and very stripped out. No electricity in there, which is really quite interesting. Very, very plain, normal door, of course, plain benches. There is a big slab of an altar, which is a later thing from a rock. It's actually made from stone from Lindisfarne, I believe. No stained glass windows, just very, very plain. There aren't many services there, but it has been reconsecrated. It is still a functioning church, which is extraordinary, because the first, ceremonies, first worship in this place was in 654 AD. It has been carrying on for, 1500 years or so. It has been a place of Christian worship. Now, is what I just said actually true? Has this been a church since the 7th century? Well, no, not quite. Yes, the building's been here, of course, hasn't really been changed much, but by the sort of 17th century, the population had gone from here. It became the sleepy place that it is now, and so people worshipped elsewhere. And actually, what would happen was the farmers around this area, they became their barn. It was a barn for centuries and centuries. And indeed, you might just be able to see in there. There's quite a large sort of what looks like new bricks. That was a huge door that was put in so that livestock could be taken in there. So yeah, it hasn't been a church this whole time, but it has been a building there. Okay. This brings us on really to that question, which I feel strongly about. Is this the oldest church in England? Now, there is another contender, and which is often put on the list, and that is St Martin's in Canterbury, because yes, that does have an earlier date put on it. That is still a church, and it has been a church this whole time. But if you were from the 7th century and you came to visit St Martin's, you wouldn't recognise it. It's been added on all sorts of things. They put towers on it, they put stained glass windows in it, they put new roofs on it. They've basically tinkered away so much that it doesn't really resemble what it actually once was. If you were St Cedd from the 7th century and you came here, he would say, yeah, that is my church. I recognise that fully. It hasn't changed hardly anything. They've got a new roof, fine, and I told you about that little hole in the wall, yeah, fine. But basically it's exactly the same as it was. It hasn't changed. So it almost certainly is the oldest church building. Well, why not also actually the St Old Church? Because many of those other churches have been changed so much, and I think their fabric has changed a lot. This still maintains an awful lot of the authenticity of that ancient old Christian idea, this early Christian belief in England. See what you think. So there you are, St Peter on the Wall at Bradwell in Essex. I think it's the oldest church in England. Let me know what you think. There is contention there, I know, but as always, please do put it in the comments. Whatever the case, it's an amazing place. The location is extraordinarily remote and stark and powerful and symbolic. Anyway, I say let me know what you think. Please don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you on the next one.